apocalypse comes, bat signal me. We're talking Joss Whedon and the DCEU on today's Nerdist News. It looks like Joss Whedon is signing on to helm a solo Batgirl flick, and we think it could change the DCEU forever. Now, the news broke this morning in Variety, where it was reported that Whedon, the erstwhile golden boy of the MCU, would be defecting from that cinematic universe to join another. According to the report, the filmmaker is nearing a deal with Warner Brothers to write, direct, and produce a Batgirl solo pick that will take place within the larger DCEU. Now, suffice it to say, we would have been excited about a Batgirl movie no matter what. She's always been one of DC's standout heroes, and she deserves better big screen treatment than what Joel Schumacher gave her in Batman and Robin. But discovering that it may be Whedon behind the camera makes us jump from, this could be one of the best DCEU movies ever made, to, this just may be one of the best superhero movies ever made, period. Whedon has already proven himself a master of the genre with the first two Avengers flicks, and it goes without saying that from Buffy to Black Widow, he has a knack for bringing funny, fiercely strong feminist characters to life on screen, and Batgirl, in her best iterations, reflects every one of those things. So one of the best superhero directors tackling a hero that brings out all of his best instincts, yep! That sounds like a recipe for something truly amazing. But while, of course, this is an amazing development for Batgirl, it could also be the move that finally takes the DCEU out of Marvel's shadow and turns it into the creative powerhouse that characters of that caliber truly deserve. And yes, while there's an obvious irony to suggesting that the DCEU would escape the MCU by poaching the dude who basically solidified what the MCU was, we think there's a good chance Whedon will be running wild with Batgirl in a way he was never allowed to do with the Avengers. Because, as you may remember, Whedon didn't exactly leave the MCU on the best of terms. There were complaints about studio interference, ballooning budgets, and unwanted Thor bath scenes. Who wouldn't want that?
No, he didn't.
God, I bet you Kyle's so sad. It's always been pretty clear that the greater concerns of the MCU prevented him from making the exact Avengers movies he's wanted, and he was never shy about letting that fact be known. At one point, he said that the only way he would come back to the MCU was if it was to do a Black Widow solo film. Now, for whatever reason, Marvel seems unwilling to give Natasha a movie where she isn't cleaning up after Cap and the boys, but in all honesty, Batgirl seems like a way better alternative. So anyway, if Whedon really left the Avengers feeling stressed out by franchise filmmaking, you'd have to assume he wouldn't jump into the deep end of another cinematic universe unless he had free reign to do whatever he wanted. And given Whedon's track record and level of fan support, DC would probably be happy to have him on whatever project he wanted, so you have to assume they gave him Batgirl because it's a smaller scale and lower stakes than a Superman or a Wonder Woman, a film that he can really take in whichever direction he chooses. But just because Whedon isn't starting with one of the DC A-listers, that doesn't mean he couldn't eventually graduate to them. In fact, this could just be phase one of steering the DCEU out of Snydertown into somewhere far more Whedon-esque. As we all know, the future of DC's biggest hero, Batman, is currently unknown. The Batman has been put on hold, and it really seems like Affleck wants out of the role. And meanwhile, the studio is blowing out the extended Bat family with a Nightwing movie and now Batgirl. If Batfleck really abandons the DCEU, why couldn't Whedon's Batgirl be the new cape and cowl in that continuity? And sure, while it may be hard to see how one of Whedon's quippy characters could feel at home in the dark and gritty universe built by Zack Snyder, let us never forget that Whedon has a proven track record of rebuilding universes to better fit his brand. As we already mentioned, the MCU only truly came together when he got involved. His run on X-Men changed the course of those comics for nearly a decade. Heck, Buffy basically created the kind of episodic storytelling we now expect from every genre show on television. Everything Whedon touches, he changes, typically for the better. And with the DCEU battling for respect against hordes of anti-Snyderites, we can totally see them letting Whedon rebuild their home from the inside out. And Batgirl would be a great room to start in. But what do you guys think? Is Batgirl just a one-off for Whedon or the start of something bigger for the DCEU? Would you rather have seen his take on that Wonder Woman that was planned for the early 2000s? Let's discuss. Be sure to check out the latest episode of The Dan Cave. Dan is breaking down the best 12 TV shows that you should, nay, need to watch this spring. Like and subscribe, and keep checking Nerdist.com for all your Nerdist news.